What's going on, guys? It's been a long time since I made a video. I've been very occupied throughout the entire 2024. I know I was starting very hot at the very beginning of the year, but things got completely busy over the summertime. But I'd still have enough time to do a breakdown and prediction, starting with all of these fights. I was gonna separate them in separate videos, but I'm gonna get these out of the way for the first ones. This one right here, the first fight on the card that I'm about to break down and give you guys my prediction. I was gonna do a separate video on it, but I might as well just cram it in with this one because I don't really have that much time at the moment for a lot of stuff right now. But Martin Bakole versus Jared Anderson. Um, this is a good fight right here. Jared Anderson is stepping up, you could say, by fighting somebody like Martin Bakole. But I'm kind of leaning towards Jared Anderson at the moment, even though he said some questionable things about how he wants to continue boxing, but not really at the extent that everybody wants or expects of him, like for him to become a world champion. And he dismisses that idea, the whole lifestyle of being a boxer, and how he wants to retire young. And like I've heard that interview that he had with Roy Jones, and it makes me question a lot of things about him. But I think he has the talent and skill set to beat a guy like Martin Bakole. But if he's not careful and if he's not on his A game, then Martin Bakole could just end up knocking him out. And that's what I think about it. Martin Bakole is a pretty dangerous fighter. I don't know if any of y'all have seen his fights, but I've seen his fights, and yeah, man, this guy could knock somebody out, man, and cause a lot of things to just distort for everybody else. But I'm picking Jared Anderson in this fight just to be safe by, I would say, probably a stoppage in the 11th round, believe it or not. But the secondary prediction I would do for a fight like this is probably Martin Bakole by knockout in the 7th round. But I'm leaning towards Jared Anderson for the KO or the TKO within this fight against Martin Bakole. So I'm picking Jared Anderson. All right, next one right here. I did a brief outline on this one many months ago with Andy Ruiz versus Jarrell Miller. Jarrell Miller, he came in at 305 today. Andy Ruiz, he came in the 270s. Jarrell Miller is pretty light for this fight, at least. Normally he weighs like 315 plus, around there, give or take. He's always in that 300-pound range, regardless if he's on the juice or not. But for this fight, I think the Daniel Dubois fight might have ticked away from Jarrell Miller, and Andy Ruiz. I gotta point this out that Andy Ruiz has been out of the ring for 2 years, so there's some questions about him, and I'm kind of leaning towards Andy Ruiz at the moment because he's a lot more fresh, even though he's taken his fair amount of damage from the first Anthony Joshua fight and some parts of the Chris Arreola fight, man. Remember when he got knocked down in that fight? And personally, I think Jarrell Miller might have lost something against Daniel Dubois. If it wasn't for Turki Al-Sheikh, forming a big card like this, Jarrell Miller wouldn't be nothing right now. Like, he would still be doing what he was doing after the Daniel Dubois fight, hitting rock bottom, and even after the fight, well, before he was going to fight Anthony Joshua, and he tested positive for like 1 million pharmacies inside him. But yeah, man, like all of that stuff aside, I'm picking Andy Ruiz by, I would say, a 12-round decision. I don't see him knocking out Jarrell Miller. I still remember Luis Ortiz losing to Andy Ruiz by a decision. And Jarrell Miller, I think, has better punch resistance at this point compared to somebody like Andy Ruiz, who had those fights with Wilder where he got knocked out completely. And he still went the full 12 rounds with Andy Ruiz, but still Andy Ruiz could outwork Jarrell Miller in certain parts of the fight. But I think Jarrell Miller, since he's off the juice, I don't think he's gonna have that same work rate, and he's kind of took some damage. He took a whole toll of damage against Daniel Dubois, and yeah, I'm picking Andy Ruiz by unanimous decision, and I don't see him knocking down Jarrell Miller in this fight. It might be 7-5, 8-4, maybe. I'm leaning towards 8-4 for Andy Ruiz in this fight. So Andy Ruiz by unanimous decision. And let's talk about this next fight right here. This was a fight right here that I was gonna do a whole separate video as well. And this is Pitbull Cruz versus Jose Valenzuela on Rayo. And this was a fight that I told people that they shouldn't really sleep on Rayo, and I'm still kind of standing on that a little bit, but that doesn't mean that I'm picking him in this fight, because Rayo still has his deficiencies, and sometimes he likes to engage with other fighters and stuff like that, and this is not going to be the same type of fight with Chris Colbert or Edwin De Los Santos, because I still remember that Edwin De Los Santos knockout vividly in my mind, and something tells me that he hasn't really evolved from that mistake, because he hasn't faced a fighter with that same work rate or even better, such as Pitbull Cruz. And I think Isaac Cruz or Isaac Cruz, I mean, depending on how you want to pronounce it. I'm just going to call him Pitbull Cruz for the sake of the video. But I think Pitbull Cruz is going to use a lot of his lower center of gravity to get underneath a lot of Jose's shots, even though Jose has improved a whole lot. And I'm talking about Rayo, by the way. Rayo has improved a whole lot. You could see it in the second Chris Colbert fight, and compared to the other one, where a lot of fans thought that he actually won the fight. And you could see the improvement, especially with the jab. But how is he going to deal with it with Pitbull, when Pitbull gets on the inside? Because Pitbull could definitely slip past the jab and go to Rayo's body and all that. So I'm picking Pitbull by stoppage. I think Rayo's going to get dragged into a fight, and there's too much pride in this fight for him. And it just overwhelms him, in my opinion. So I'm picking Pitbull Cruz by stoppage, I would say, in the 9th or 10th round. That's just my opinion on it. Let me know what y'all think about the undercard fights, and who are you picking in those fights, specifically those other ones. I mean, sure, I could break down the Dave Morrell fight and all of that, but Dave Morrell is easily going to win, in my opinion. For those of you that don't know, I don't really break down those type of fights where I know, or other fans know, that there's going to be a definite winner, or there's some gray area of error where another fighter can make and they end up losing the fight. I just don't see it happening in that fight against Rajavad or whatever his name is. So yeah, either ways, let's talk about Terence Crawford versus Madrimov. And before I get into the main event of the card, I still feel kind of bummed out that Virgil Ortiz versus Tim Tszyu isn't happening. I was actually looking forward to that fight as the co-main event. I think it was the co-main event on the card. It could have been a big fight in itself, but I gotta say, man, Turki Al-Sheikh has put on some stat cards, so I can't be mad at it, because there's always gonna be, even though there's a lot of big fights that have been happening this year, you gotta say, man, some of these fights are gonna have their, pushbacks, kind of similar to how we just had it with Bivol versus Better BF. Quite disappointing, but at least the fight is still happening. So I think we're still going to get Tim Tszyu versus Virgil Ortiz at some point. But anyways, let's talk about Terence Crawford versus Madrimov. I saw some fights of Madrimov, and he's pretty good. He does some things where he tries to mimic Terence Crawford in certain ways, but he's not really as on that advanced level of Terence Crawford. So I think he's a strong guy, that's for sure. He's definitely a natural 154 pounder, that's for sure. And there's some guys in the division that I think he could beat easily, like Erickson Lubin. Some of these other guys that everybody likes to talk about at 154 pounds. And he could probably beat Sebastian Fundora, in my opinion. I mean, there's some it's a little 50-50 right there in my opinion. But let me know what y'all think on that one. So either ways, I'm still picking Terrence Crawford by a unanimous decision. I don't see Terrence Crawford stopping Madrimov in this fight. This is going to be the first fight in, I would say, 8 years that Terrence Crawford has gone the distance, which was against Victor Postal back in 2016. I remember because that's the same year that I graduated high school, I mean. So, yeah, man, I mean, Terrence Crawford, even though um, Terrence Crawford has been on a streak lately, man, with his wins at welterweight and obviously the Errol Spence fight. He is getting a little older, but at the same time, man, he's also facing a very young fighter in Madrimov. But I think this fight is going to go the full 12 rounds. It could be him just acclimating to the division, but I would be kind of surprised if he did stop Madrimov like in probably less than 5 rounds or so. I wouldn't put it past Terrence Crawford, to be honest, if he was able to do that. But I think it would happen more so very late in the fight, like 11 or 12. But I'm picking Terrence Crawford by unanimous decision, and I think he's going to dominate every round of the fight. There might be some times where he gets buzzed, kind of like how he did against Mean Machine. But hey, man, it is what it is. That's just part of the sport. So either ways, I'm expecting a good card happening going on. I'm expecting a good card, coming this Saturday, and hopefully they're a lot more competitive than I'm actually interpreting them. So let me know what y'all think in the comments section. Who do y'all got winning this fight? And the rest of the undercard fights. Which fight on the card are you looking forward to? And where do you see these guys going afterwards? The winner of these fights, obviously, of course. And what other type of Turkey on the Sheik card do you want to see from Riyadh season kind of form, And let me know that in the comment section if you guys want me to make a video on fights that I want to see for the next decade or so, for this whole decade coming up. I have some fights in mind. I wouldn't mind sharing it either way. So until then, I'm out. Peace.